All right, everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to turn it over to Doug right now.
Thanks for joining us today. As Mike said, we're here to announce Craig Berube's 3-year extension. As an organization, we're excited to have Craig continue as our head coach. Obviously, coming in a few years ago, and the success we had in the playoffs in 19, and then the regular season success over the last couple of years has been very good. And we like our team this year. We like where it's heading, and I think we have the perfect coach for this group. So, Craig, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doug. And I'd like to thank Tom Stillman and Doug Armstrong for giving the opportunity to continue to coach here. There's no other place I'd rather be. I've enjoyed the relationship I've had with Doug, working-wise and personal. I think it's grown over the years, and it's really in a good spot right now. So I enjoy St. Louis, and I enjoy the team. Like Doug said, I think we got a real good hockey team here going forward, and we can do some damage. So I'm excited.
We'll open up to any questions you might have. Anyone?
Yeah, for both Doug and Craig, just can you talk anything about just the process of how this came about? Was this something that you talked about in the off season and led up to this, or just how did it come together?
I'd say we talked prior to Christmas, Craig and I, about there was really no feeling, I think, from either side that we were concerned we weren't going to get something done. We talked at Christmas and said it's probably the right time to start the discussions, and I started to talk to Craig's representative, Steve Mountain, who did a great job, and we just sort of talked on and off, and then we thought at this Olympic break, or All-Star break, I guess now, was the proper time to see if we get it finished, and we were able to do that.
Doug, you've used the term perfect coach for this team before. Can you just define that? What does it mean that Craig's the perfect coach for this team?
Well, I think you start with the players, the respect that first of all, Craig has for them, and then they have for Craig. I think that he's able to deliver a firm but strong message. They accept it. They understand the style of play that he wants to incorporate. It's a style of play I think we can win with. We build our team around try and bring in players for that style, and I think you certainly don't want to have a vision as a manager and a coach not share that vision, and probably you don't want to be a coach that doesn't have the same vision as your manager. And I think that Craig and I view hockey the same way. We view the type of players that you need to have success, and so I would say that's what I mean by that, JR.
Craig, being a former player yourself, do you feel like that helps understanding the pulse of your group and just having that feeling of knowing when to push the buttons and at what times you want to push the buttons and feeling like you can push the right buttons?
No, it does help for sure that I was fortunate enough to play the game and be in a locker room, and I had a number of different coaches throughout my career, and players and leaders that I've learned from over time, but also just as a coach, the more years you coach and you get the more experience you get, you learn a lot more about things you're talking about, when to push buttons and certain buttons. And I think the game's changed over the years. It's really a players' league, and you gotta really communicate with players nowadays. It's very important. They want to know why things are happening or why you're doing this, and so that communication is really important, and that's changed over time. Back when I played, there wasn't a lot of communication between a coach and a player, and nowadays it's all about that.
Greg, several players have said one of the things they like about you is you're open and honest with them, even if it's bad news. I mean, is that maybe the toughest part? Maybe to tell players something they normally wouldn't want to hear.
Yeah, I think so, but you get used to it. I mean, again, you're just trying to help them. So there's always tough decisions as a manager and a coach that you got to make, and they're not always they're not always fun. But if you want to be in this business, that's part of it, and you got to deal with it.
Craig, we see so many breakdowns around the league between the ownership, the general manager, and the head coach. When you're making this decision, how much does that stability with ownership and GM weigh into your decision? Maybe it's underestimated by some of us on the outside.
Was that question for me? I didn't quite hear you. Say it again, please.
Yeah, for you, Craig. It was just, and when making this decision, how much does the stability with the Blues ownership and Doug Armstrong weigh into your decision?
Well, it has everything to do with it. like Doug said, if you don't have a good working relationship, it's hard to come to work every day. I mean, our relationship has grown over time, and I think it was good from the get-go even, but like Doug and I view hockey the same way and the type of team we want to have, and you know, it all starts there. And I think having a real good relationship with your ownership and your manager is very important as a coach. For me, it is anyhow. I don't want to come to work every day and not have a good relationship, and you know, I don't need that. I don't think anybody needs that stress.
Doug, I was just wondering, could you revisit, because at least in the Midwest and St. Louis, not a lot was known about Craig when you hired him, but just what about him at that time, going back a few years ago, made you think that he'd be a good head coach for you?
Well, I want to give Kevin McDonald a lot of credit for that. Kevin works for us and runs our American Hockey League team, and really spoke highly of Craig's coaching ability when he was in the Flyers organization. Craig and I had a chance to meet when he was between jobs, and I was doing some stuff for Hockey Canada, and he did some scouting for us. So I had an opportunity to meet him at that point. And then when we were looking to hire a coach, Kevin strongly recommended Craig, and I thought he did a great job, obviously, in with Chicago Wolves for us. And then coming up here, we were looking for someone to been there, done that on our staff, a former head coach to help out that staff, and it sort of grew from there. So I would say Kevin McDonald, and then Paul Holmgren, who's a former manager of the Flyers, spoke highly of him, and someone I really respect. So when you keep hearing positive information about somebody, it takes seed.
Hey, Army, we hear a lot about sometimes in hockey, coaches' messages get stale, and we see lots of changes in that field. What is it about Craig's approach, his style? Is it his honesty? What keeps him from avoiding that trap that we see some coaches fall into?
Well, I think you have to have willing participants that he's working with too, and a lot of credit I put to Ryan O'Reilly and our leadership group in there that they want to be coached, they want to receive information to be a good team, and I think Craig delivers that. As I said, I think he's done a great job of surrounding himself with good assistant coaches that can, you know, we all want to fill in the cracks that we may have in our own job responsibilities, and I think Craig's done a great job of bringing in good people, and not only bringing them in, but then using them to the fullest of their abilities. So I think I think it takes a group of people to coach in the NHL right now, and Craig's certainly the head coach, and he has a great message. And I think what he does very well is to incorporate everyone into the decisions that he's making, and allows those guys to have a voice with the players, which I think helps as a head coach. If you're not always having to deliver that message yourself, if you can rely on others, I think it helps out. But I would start with our players wanting to be coached and wanting to win, and I think Craig has great leadership qualities.
It doesn't sound like this situation was much of a distraction for either of you guys, but was it important to both of you to have this settled entering what you hope is a playoff push here in a run?
For me, it wasn't that big of a deal. I knew it was going to get done. You know, Craig won a championship here. We've had good seasons, and I think he felt the same way. I don't think either of us get too stressed out about these things. We understand that it's going to happen, but it was great that it's done now. So it's not I don't think I was distracted by it, and Craig can speak for himself. But now it's just something we don't have to answer about what's going on. It's done now, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like, I got a job to do, and that's what I focus on, is just come to the rink and do my job. And, you know, if it was gonna get done, it's gonna get done. Like, but I got a job to do, and that's what I focus on. So I really didn't, you know, like Doug said, like, you know, I wasn't stressed out over it. I think we were both, you know, in a good spot, and we thought it was gonna get done, so.
Hey, Army, really since Hitch got here, you haven't had a whole lot of turnover in terms of, you know, your coaches that have worked for you. And just how important is that stability just for you to focus on you doing your job and everybody else within the organization, just to kind of have that stability at the head coaching position?
Well, I think it's important. I think when successful organizations, or the ones I believe are successful, the players know that there's a unity between the manager and the coach. And your first instinct isn't to change coaches or change managers, and that comes from ownership. I think I think when you're willing to, you're going to work through rough patches with people, I think that grabs the players' attention. And I think they want that stability in the locker room for themselves too. When we try and breed that, we don't make a lot of trades. We just sort of pick our team and just go with it. And obviously there are trades in hockey, but we're not a group that has a lot of turnover. I don't like a lot of turnover in our scouting staff, our coaching staff, or our players. I think it's you have a better chance to have success if you believe you're in it together.
The first one's for Craig and the follow-up for Doug. Craig, this coaching staff didn't have a lot of NHL experience. I'm talking about the rest of the staff, here in St. Louis, but it's done really well. What's led to the chemistry and the success of this entire staff? And then Doug, what's the status of the contracts for the assistant staff? Does this mean anything today moving forward?
Well, the coaching staff we have together there, all three of them played in the NHL. They got a lot of hockey experience as players, so I think first and foremost that bodes well to coaching. Mike Van Ryn had success coaching in junior and in the minors. I know Steve Ott came up and didn't have experience right away, but he's a highly intelligent guy, character guy, was as a player, so I think that's what's made him a good coach. And Montgomery has coaching experience going back to junior level, college, success in college, and then obviously NHL. And then David Alexander, the goalie coach, and Sean Farrell. Sean's been here for a long time as a video coach. He's had Ken Hitchcock as a head coach, so he's learned a bunch from him, and he's done a great job. And Davey Alexander, was brought in here, and he's done a tremendous job with our goalies over time. So very smart guy. So I think, the coaching staff really works well together. We all communicate well together, and I think that's what makes it work. But again, there's a lot of NHL experience with our coaching staff as players. So I think that really boasts well.
Yeah, and with regards to the rest of the staff, everyone's basically staggered. So there's some guys have term left, some guys don't, and Craig and I all deal with that stuff later on. But it's not, it's not a concern with me. As I said, I really like our staff, and they may move on at some point to be head coaches. But right now, I like the group, and if Craig feels that way, we'll move forward with these guys. I don't see why we wouldn't.
Craig, what's the most enjoyable part of being a head coach, and what's the most exasperating part of being a head coach?
Well, I think obviously winning is the most enjoyable thing, but I mean, it's a process of that. But I mean, for me, it's coming every day. I have the opportunity to come to this rink and work with, an organization. I played the game for a long time, and I wanted to stay in the game, and this was the best way to stay in the game and stay in that locker room. For me, that's the most enjoyable part, is coming here and working with Doug, working with the coaching staff, the trainers, the players. Just you can't. For me, it's the best thing. I love it. So that's other than winning hockey games, that's the most enjoyable part. Like I said, the tough part is, obviously losing. It's not easy. It's not easy for anyone. Everybody we all want to win. But losing is part of it too. You're going to lose games, and it's not easy to deal with that all the time. And there's tough decisions you got to make as a coach and as a manager that, we're human beings, and they're not easy decisions all the time, and it can bother you a little bit.
All right. Well,
Just one more for me. What do you enjoy about St. Louis? Maybe the places, the town, maybe kind of away from the rink.
Well, I've said it before. I love the people in St. Louis. I think they're great people, and we got a great fan base, and huge hockey town, in my opinion. That's a big part of St. Louis for me, is the people. I think it's a great town. It's easy to get around. I've really enjoyed my time here, and look forward to the next few years.